Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're talking about Tesla, which surprisingly is a stock that I haven't really talked about a lot on this channel. But Elon Musk and Tesla had their We Robot event last week, and the reactions ranged from amazing to, yeah, it was okay, to pretty underwhelming. Well, we're going to break it all down and talk about if Tesla's vision for the future is worth buying into as an investor. But let's start with what was actually announced. Now, Tesla displayed three major things at the We Robot event: the Cybercab, the Robovan, and the Optimus robot. So let's talk about each one real quick. Now, the Cybercab was an autonomous two-seater car that had no steering wheel or pedals. And the idea is that it will be the future autonomous taxi service. So basically disrupting taxis and rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft. Elon said the plan is to start production in 2026 or 2027 and implement full autonomous driving in existing Tesla vehicles in Texas and California next year. Now, the Robovan was a big surprise of the night, basically an autonomous vehicle to carry up to 20 people or transport goods. And then lastly, the Optimus robot was on full display with robots walking out together, interacting with guests, and even bartending and serving drinks. And the idea with Optimus is that it could be a robot helper that helps complete tasks at home and ultimately costs about $30,000 or a little less than the price of a car. And now, at first, some people assumed that the robots were fully autonomous and pretty amazed how they were interacting completely with AI, but it became pretty obvious that they were being remotely controlled by humans, and they even unofficially confirmed it. So overall, I thought what they announced was really cool. Now, to me, it seemed pretty obvious that the robots weren't fully autonomous and it wasn't AI talking. Like, it just sounded like a human, but it was still cool to see how the hardware has evolved, at least so far. So from a future vision perspective, I definitely understand it. And as a huge fan of Westworld, I was pretty intrigued by it, even if it's just a glimpse of what can be and not something that we should expect anytime soon. But the issue with that is that Tesla is a public company, so the reaction from shareholders and investors didn't really have the same enthusiasm. With Tesla being down almost 9% the day after the event, plus Uber was up almost 11% and Lyft up almost 10%. So in general, the market saw it as a positive for the rideshare companies, basically saying, okay, well, whatever Tesla announced clearly isn't going to disrupt them anytime soon. But you had some people going so far as calling the whole event underwhelming overall. But to the surprise of no one, Dan Ives disagrees.
You say you left that event in which you were there in person more bullish on this story. How?
I mean, it's all about, now clearly details were obviously scarce, and that's partially why the stock's down. But in terms of Cybercab, in terms of what we saw, what's really going to be over the next, call it 18, 24 months, you look at Optimus, in terms of what I view as robotics, where right now there's no value for Optimus in the story. And I think most importantly, in terms of the unsupervised FSD that's going to really be rolled out throughout all the Tesla models, at least California, Texas, into next year. And I think that's why, to me, I'm not talking in the next quarter or two that's moving the needle. But in terms of the next few years, I believe it's a game changer to the broader story.
You're trying to value a stock based on some level of identifiable fundamentals.
Sure.
Are you telling me that you came away from that event last night satisfied with the details that you got?
Yeah,
because your colleagues at other places were not. Adam Jonas, that's it? Disappointing lack of detail. Tony Sacconaghi, stunningly absent in detail. Wells Fargo, little substance. Now, are you telling me that you were fulfilled in the detail that you learned?
No, we called out. Details are scarce. That was a negative, and it's a reason to stop. We wanted more details. But to me, with Musk and Tesla in an event like that, you're maybe not going to get as many details right there as you'd want. But the reason we came out so positive, in terms of the test drives, and if you look at Cybercab, and you look now at production, and this is real. We're not talking prototype. 2026, they start to produce this.
And this brings me to what I think the biggest challenge will be for investors to try to value the company going forward. Like, how likely is this future? And at what point will it turn into something real with real revenues? Well, that's where it gets a little complicated. And I actually have a little bit of personal experience with this with Tesla. I actually reserved myself a Cybertruck after the initial event in November of 2019. I wasn't sure if I actually wanted one, but you never know. It was going to be a few years away, so I thought I'd just hold my place, and it was pretty cheap to do so. And originally the plan was to begin production in late 2021 or early 2022. So similar to what they're announcing now with the Cybercab with about a 2-year lead time. Well, with the Cybertruck, I didn't actually get my email that I could order it until January of 2024, and that was for a special limited edition higher price foundation model. And then just this month in October, I finally got the email that I could order the truck that I originally reserved in 2019. So it was an additional 3-year delay, and the price is vastly different because originally when I reserved it, the list price for the dual motor Cybertruck was going to be $49,000. And now 5 years later, that price is $79,000. So the point I'm trying to make is that even if investors are excited by what they announced, what and when they deliver is probably going to change a little bit if history is any guide, which makes trying to value the company almost impossible since the Cybercab or the Optimus robot are not likely to end up at $30,000 a piece and not likely to be here in 2 years. So what are those things worth in terms of potential revenue or future cash flows? I have no clue. And what makes that a bigger issue is that if we look at the fundamentals of Tesla today, in my opinion, they don't look very attractive. I mean, they're trading at a 61 PE and an over 400 price to free cash flow, with their projected 2-year revenue growth being under 10% and their projected 2-year earnings per share growth being less than 1%. Now, while Tesla has clearly been a really good growth story, they've obviously slowed as the economy has slowed, which by itself isn't necessarily a huge issue, but I think it points to the real problem that I personally have with investing in Tesla. At the end of the day, they're still a car company that makes a majority of their revenue from auto sales. And if you look at the numbers, it shows that over 80% of their total revenue comes from automotive sales, which only have a 17% gross product margin and are highly impacted by swings in the economy. So the risk is you have a company that's trading at a really high valuation that may not perform that well for investors just based on economic factors, and you're waiting for this future vision to become a reality to introduce some new large set of diverse revenues that may or may not actually happen. So with that, it may seem kind of obvious, but let's get into what I think about Tesla from an investment perspective right now. And I want to start with this. Like in general, I'm a fan of Elon Musk. I think he's done amazing things with his companies like Tesla and SpaceX, obviously, and he's accomplished a great deal. And what I love about him is that he's not afraid to go after something that's very difficult. He has this big vision and he really goes after it and works his tail off. And personally, I think we need more people like that. I read the biography that Ashley Vance did on him a while back, and it was excellent, I thought, in terms of a person truly having a big vision and working night and day to achieve it. Plus, he really has a history of delivering on his grand visions with SpaceX and Tesla both. They've just taken a little bit longer than maybe he initially says, but they do eventually get there. And when you're trying to push the envelope and do things that have never really been done before, I think that should be expected and that's okay. The issue for me is that the fundamentals and the outlook of the company just don't match the multiple that it's currently trading at. And look, I'm not against buying an expensive stock, clearly. I added NVIDIA and Cloudflare this year. But to me, those are companies where the growth outlook is there and growth is happening now. NVIDIA is a great example of that. They're selling out of their new products and continuing to ship new product each year. The issue with Tesla is you're not buying growth right now, you're buying potential growth in 2 to 3 years. And that's just a lot of uncertainty when there are other companies out there like NVIDIA where the growth outlook, in my opinion, is more certain. And it doesn't mean that I think Tesla's not a great or important company or that Elon hasn't accomplished amazing things. It just means that the predictability of that investment isn't as good as I would prefer it to be. I feel like there are more certain places to put my money for market-beating returns, and I'm willing to go ahead and miss out on Tesla continuing to be a big winner going forward. And ultimately, it's one of those situations where I like the company a lot, I'm a fan, and I want them to do well, but at this point, it doesn't quite meet my criteria for what I would invest in. So what did you all think about the Tesla event? Is it a stock that you're already holding, or one that doesn't really meet the criteria of what you're looking for? Let me know down in the comments. Now, if you missed my video on Google's Notebook LM and how it blew my mind, you can watch that by clicking this video right here. Hope you guys have a great day out there. Financial independence is true freedom, so keep building and stacking wins, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.